September 19th, 1944. Lorraine, France. Pre-dawn, a heavy fog clings to the French fields near the village of Haraucourt. Inside a U.S. Army Sherman tank, the crew peers into the gray gloom. Engines rumble in the distance beyond the mist, the unmistakable growl of German panzers. Suddenly, dark shapes materialize. "Panthers!" a loader shouts, heart pounding. 5 enemy Panther tanks emerge from the fog, their long 75mm guns scanning for targets. In that electric moment, American tank commander Captain Kenneth Lamison must make a split-second decision. The lives of his crew and the fate of the entire front hang in the balance.
We got movement, Captain.
Clang. An enemy 80mm round tears through the morning silence, narrowly missing. Inside the Sherman, adrenaline surges. Lamison grips his hatch, barking orders over the radio. They have only seconds to act before the German ambush crushes them, or before they turn the tables entirely. It is fall 1944, and the U.S. Third Army under General George Patton is slicing through Lorraine after the liberation of Paris. Patton's tanks have outrun their supply lines, spearheading deep into eastern France. The Germans, reeling from the summer offensive, are desperate to strike back. Hitler orders a counterblow in Lorraine to halt Patton's advance. He commits newly formed panzer brigades, units bristling with modern Panther tanks and veteran crews from training schools. Their mission? Ambush and annihilate the forward elements of Patton's 4th Armored Division, then drive the Americans back. On paper, the German panzers outclass the American Shermans. The Panther's high-velocity 75mm gun can punch through a Sherman from 2,000 meters, while the U.S. tank's shorter 75mm struggles even at point-blank range against the Panther's thick armor. The German Mark V Panther is a mechanical beast, heavy frontal plating, lethal firepower. By contrast, most of Captain Lamison's Company C, 37th Tank Battalion, still use mid-production M4 Shermans with thinner armor and lesser guns. It seems an uneven match. Yet war isn't fought on paper. Patton's troops are battle-hardened. The 4th Armored Division's tankers have trained together since 1941 and been fighting non-stop since Normandy. They have a few advantages: superior radio communication and teamwork, and crucially, experience. The German panzer brigades, though well-equipped, are green as units. Many crewmen and officers are fresh, untested in real combat. They lack proper reconnaissance and coordination, essentially driving blind into battle. The stage is set in mid-September around Haraucourt, a cluster of farms and villages amid gentle rolling hills and patchy woods. Recent rains turned fields muddy, and each morning a thick fog settles in the low ground. This fog will prove both a curse and a blessing, masking movement but also causing chaos. Both sides know an attack is coming, but neither knows exactly when or where. The stakes: if the Germans break through here, they could roll up Third Army's flank, perhaps even cut off Patton's spearhead. If the Americans hold, they will blunt one of the last major panzer offensives in France. Tension hangs in the damp air. Troopers from the 25th Cavalry Recon Squadron set listening posts in dark, wet meadows. Tank engines idle. Everyone waits for dawn, rifles and cannon loaded. A showdown is imminent. Early morning, 19th of September 1944. The sun's first light is little more than a dim glow through low clouds. At a 7 hours, near Moncourt village, an American M8 Greyhound armored car from the 42nd Cavalry inches forward, and suddenly, an eruption. An 88mm shell screams out of nowhere, blowing the armored car apart. German guns have opened up. The Battle of Haraucourt has begun. U.S. scouts fall back, sounding the alarm. Moments later, out on the eastern flank, a platoon of light M5 Stuart tanks from D Company spots silhouettes in the haze. They radio a warning, but it's too late. 5 Panthers loom out of the fog, their hulls almost invisible until they are dangerously close. The German tanks spit fire, and the outgunned Stuarts have no choice but to peel away under fire, retreating toward the main U.S. lines. The Panther ambush has been sprung. Chaos erupts along the American positions. Colonel Bruce Clark, commanding Combat Command A, urgently issues orders. He knows enemy armor is on the prowl in force. He directs Captain William Dwight, a liaison officer, to grab any available anti-tank units and set up blocks. Within minutes, Lieutenant Edwin Leiper races with 4 M18 Hellcat tank destroyers to a low hill, Hill 246, on the flank. The Hellcats barely dig in on the hilltop when a lone German tank noses out of the woods below. Sergeant John Stacy, commanding the lead Hellcat, reacts instantly. Boom! His 76mm gun's first shot slams into the Panzer IV, knocking it all. Stacy quickly trains his turret on a second German tank appearing behind. Another direct hit. 2 kills in seconds. The ambushers are being ambushed in return. Enemy rounds whiz back at the Hellcats. An explosive blast throws Stacy and his crew inside their thinly armored TD. They're hit. Though wounded, Stacy's team manages to pull their Hellcat back to cover. One of his platoon mates destroys the Panzer IV that hit Stacy, avenging him. 2 more German tanks try to reverse into the tree line, but the Hellcat gunners smash them as well before they escape. Within minutes, Leiper's ambush has knocked out 5 German tanks on this flank. The surviving enemy crews withdraw in confusion, leaving burning armor in the fog. Amid the smoke and chaos, help comes from above. Major Charles, Bazooka Charlie Carpenter, an artillery spotter pilot, buzzes over the battlefield in his tiny L-4 Grasshopper plane. Carpenter has jury-rigged bazooka rockets on his aircraft. Now he dives out of the clouds straight toward a cluster of German tanks, firing rockets in a daring attempt to harass them. His improvised air attack doesn't score any direct hits, but it startles the German tankers. Carpenter's real value is as eyes in the sky. Over the radio, he urgently alerts the Americans below to enemy movements trying to flank them. Every element of the U.S. force, from tankers to engineers to pilots, is now engaged in this furious melee. Back near Aracourt, Captain Lameson's Company C hears the cacophony of battle and sights German armor. Moments ago, Lameson had been reinforcing his picket lines around the village of Lezé, positioning platoons to guard likely approaches. Now he receives word of a German column falling back from the Hellcats' ambush and trying to slip south around the village of Bézange. Lameson realizes an opportunity. The hunters can become the hunted. In a flash, he decides to cut off the retreating panzers. He radios his platoons. "Charlie Company, follow me. We're going to intercept." With only 4 Sherman tanks immediately at hand, Lameson's own HQ tank and elements of his 3rd platoon, he races into action. Tracks clatter and engines roar as the Shermans lunge into motion. Lameson's brow is tense with concentration as he scans his map and the terrain ahead. He spots a long ridgeline west of Bézange-la-Petite, a perfect firing position overlooking the Germans' likely path. "Driver, south, full speed. We need that ridge before they do," he orders. The Sherman's 500 horsepower engine roars. Muddy water splashes the hull as the tanks barrel across fields, skirting the crest to stay unseen. It's a race against the lumbering Panthers. Lameson's gamble pays off. Thanks to the Sherman's speed, his tank section reaches the ridge moments ahead of the German column. The 4 American tanks hunker down behind the gentle slope, hulls concealed. Below them and to the east, through wisps of fog, Lameson's gunner can make out the shadows of the Panther column trundling right into their trap. The Germans have no idea the Americans have leapfrogged them. Lameson picks his moment, heart thumping. He lines up the lead Panther in his gun sight as it emerges past Bézange village, exposing its weaker side armor. "Fire!" he yells. Crack! The Sherman's 75mm cannon hurls a shell downhill, slamming into the side of the first Panther. In quick succession, the other Shermans on the ridge unleash their own rounds, boom, boom, in a coordinated volley. Plumes of flame and black smoke burst from the German column. Direct hits, With their flanks exposed at close range, the Panthers are sitting ducks. One by one, German tanks brew up in fiery explosions, ammunition cooking off inside. "Target hit! Adjust right! Another one!" Lameson's gunner shouts as he traverses to the next Panther. The Americans reload rapidly, raining shells on the convoy. In the first seconds of the ambush, German tanks begin exploding before they can even return fire. Inside one Panther, a Panzer commander scrambles to traverse his turret toward the ridge, but he's too slow. The Shermans have a crucial edge. Their powered turrets rotate faster than the Panther's manual traverse. That morning, it proves decisive. An American crew can lay their gun on target quicker, and each second counts. As one Panther finally manages to swing its long barrel toward Lameson's ridge, it erupts in a fireball, struck before it could shoot. Within minutes, Lameson's 4 Shermans knock out at least 5 Panthers in this surprise flank attack. Burning German tanks litter the roadside. Realizing they are caught in a deadly ambush, the remaining enemy crews panic. The surviving Panthers halt and belatedly fire back, their shots whistling high or thudding into the ridge crest. Lameson keeps cool under fire. Sensing victory, he refuses to give the Germans any chance to recover. He orders his tanks to displace and attack again. Using hand signals and radio, he directs his Shermans to back off behind the ridgeline, then sprint further south. The crewmen reload and brace themselves. On Lameson's mark, the 4 Shermans pop up over the crest at a new position like wolves circling wounded prey. The last 3 Panthers are caught broadside in the open. The Shermans open fire simultaneously, a thunderous point-blank salvo. All 3 German tanks are hit and destroyed before they can react. "Cease fire!" Lameson calls out. It's over. The entire Panther column has been wiped out to the last tank, a total rout. What began as a Nazi ambush has been decisively flipped into a deadly trap against them. Lameson surveys the smoldering wrecks through his periscope. His men's cheers are cut short when a new threat erupts. Wham! An armor-piercing round shrieks past his Sherman, narrowly missing. Dirt and shrapnel spray the hull. It's a hidden German Pak-40 anti-tank gun barking from the edge of Bezange village. The enemy gun crew, likely escorting the Panthers, is desperately trying to salvage the situation. "Back behind the ridge," Lameson shouts. His drivers roar in reverse, and the Shermans duck down as more 75mm shots skip overhead. Now it's a tense standoff. The Americans can't see the camouflaged gun, and the Germans can't advance without being exposed. Captain Lameson decides on bold action. He personally climbs out of his turret and into the open air, binoculars in hand. Crawling up to a rise on foot, with enemy rounds still zipping by, he scans for the muzzle flashes. Amid the haze, he spots it, the telltale profile of the anti-tank cannon hidden near a hedgerow. Sliding back down, Lameson leaps onto his Sherman and gives target coordinates. "All tanks, on my mark, fire!" The Shermans simultaneously crest the ridge again and let loose high-explosive shells. The area around the Pak-40 erupts in blasts, kicking up dust and debris. Lameson's rounds strike true. The German gun crew frantically tries to hitch their cannon to a half-track to retreat, but they're too late. The Pak-40 is blown apart, its wheels and shield torn asunder. The surviving German gunners flee or lie still. Lameson's men have eliminated the last threat in their sector. The battlefield falls quiet, save for the crackle of flames from ruined Panthers and the distant rattle of machine guns. The entire German ambush force here has been decimated in barely an hour. But the fight rages elsewhere around Aricourt. Even as Lameson's crew catches their breath, reports crackle over the radio of more enemy armor probing near the village of Lay to the north. There, another U.S. tank platoon, 2nd Platoon, Company C, under Lieutenant Paul Berard, is engaging a group of German tanks. They, too, have learned quickly. As 4 panzers creep through a shallow valley, Berard's 5 Sherman crews spring their own trap from hull-down positions. All 5 American tanks open fire together, quickly knocking out 3 German panzers. The fourth enemy tank tries to hide behind the wreckage of a crashed airplane in a field. The Americans promptly blast the plane wreckage with high-explosive shells, setting it ablaze and forcing the Panzer out. As it retreats, a U.S. gunner drills it with a fatal shot. A fifth German tank appears at the edge of Leh. The Shermans coolly put a round through it, destroying it as well. In a matter of minutes, Berad's platoon has knocked out 5 enemy tanks without loss, a flawless victory. The second platoon put HE on the plane and set it on fire. A fifth German tank was hit and destroyed. Sergeant Dunn recounted proudly of their gunnery that day. All across the Aracourt area this morning, similar deadly duels and ambushes play out. American tankers, infantry, engineers, and gunners fight back ferociously against the larger German assault. When German infantry try to infiltrate, they are met with withering machine gun fire and mortar blasts. U.S. artillery battalions, alerted by forward observers, rain shells on any concentrations of armor they detect. Even the weather shifts in the Americans' favor. By late morning, the fog begins to lift, and with a break in the clouds, P-47 Thunderbolt fighter bombers swoop in. The U.S. Air Force joins the fray, rocketing and strafing German vehicles caught in the open. The once confident German offensive is now in disarray. By midday on September 19th, what was intended to be a surprise German ambush has turned into a rout. Burning Panther and Panzer IV hulks smolder in the fields and village streets. Here and there, dazed German tank crewmen stumble away from their charred machines, only to be taken prisoner by American infantry. Others never escape their steel coffins at all. The skyline is marked by pillars of black smoke visible for miles, each column marking a destroyed German tank. The U.S. tank crews are exhausted and shaken, but triumphant. They have survived the onslaught and crippled the enemy's spearhead. As the day progresses, reinforcements from Patton's Third Army arrive to shore up the lines. The German High Command, shocked at the stinging losses, throws in a few more attacks over the next week around Aracourt, but none succeed. The pattern set on September 19th continues. American tankers and tank destroyers, often outnumbered and outgunned, use superior tactics, teamwork, and timing to prevail. In engagement after engagement, quick thinking and coordination beat brute force. By September 22nd, 4 days of fighting have cost the Germans at least 36 tanks destroyed and 700 soldiers killed. The Americans have lost some tanks, and good men too, but their losses are far lighter by comparison. The Battle of Aracourt becomes one of the U.S. Army's finest armored victories of the war. Over the 2-week clash in Lorraine, the 4th Armored Division and supporting units knock out around 200 German tanks and assault guns, an astonishing toll. By battle's end, the German 5th Panzer Army's counter-offensive has collapsed in failure. 2 elite panzer brigades are virtually wrecked, their remnants retreating in haste. Extraordinarily well equipped on paper, these German units were undone by poor reconnaissance and American decisiveness. Lacking coordination and situational awareness, they had driven straight into deadly traps. For the U.S. troops, the victory has both immediate and long-term payoffs. In the immediate sense, Patton's flank is secured. The feared German breakthrough never materializes. The strategic city of Nancy remains in American hands. This means Third Army can resume its push toward Germany once supplies allow. In the bigger picture, Aracourt proves a sobering lesson to the Germans. Even their best armor cannot guarantee success when opposed by skilled, determined defenders with lightning-fast decision-making. The engagement highlights the importance of combined arms and quick communication. Superior U.S. radio networks and leadership allowed a swift, coordinated response to the ambush. American commanders on the ground, like Captain Lamison and Colonel Clark, seized the initiative and never let go. The human cost of the battle is sobering. Hundreds of young German tank crewmen and panzer grenadiers lie dead or wounded amid the smoking ruins of their vehicles. Many had never seen combat before this and were thrown into a furnace. On the American side, Dozens of tankers and infantry also fell, some in tanks hit by high-velocity rounds, others cut down while disabling enemy armor. Each burning Sherman or Panther represents lives abruptly ended. Yet, those sacrifices ensured many more lives were saved by preventing a prolongation of brutal fighting in this sector. As the smoke clears, Captain Kenneth Lamison and his Sherman crew climb out of their tank, aching and grimy. They stare at the destruction they helped create. A once formidable German Panther battalion has been reduced to twisted metal. The fields that were peaceful farmland yesterday are now a tank graveyard. It's a ghastly sight, but also a testament to their victory. The crew exchanges weary grins and claps on the back. They know how narrowly they cheated death that morning. The split-second decision to charge ahead of the enemy column, to risk everything on a daring ambush, has paid off spectacularly. General Patton, upon hearing of the fight, praised the daredevil tankers who stymied the German attack. The men of 4th Armored Division earned a proud legacy in those autumn fields. Historians would later note that Araucourt was a clear validation of American tactics, using speed, cover, and coordination to offset technological inferiority. Training and initiative triumphed over raw firepower. One U.S. tanker quipped that after Araucourt, we weren't scared of their Panthers so much. The myth of German invincibility had been shattered. In the end, the ambushers became the ambushed. What began as a Nazi surprise attack was nullified by the courage and quick thinking of a single U.S. tank company. The morning fog that was supposed to cloak a German killing strike instead provided cover for American ingenuity and audacity. Captain Lamison's split-second choice to outflank the enemy and his crew's flawless execution of that plan changed the course of the battle in minutes. They proved that in war, decisive action at the crucial moment can turn impending defeat into stunning victory. As the sun sets over the wreckage at Araucourt, one can almost picture that pivotal scene again. 4 Sherman tanks cresting a ridge, muzzles flashing, catching an entire German Panther unit utterly by surprise. The echo of that moment reverberated far beyond that French hillside. It showed every soldier watching that even against long odds, steel nerves and split-second decisions can rout a superior foe. 8 decades later, the overgrown fields of Lorraine still hide bits of rusted armor and spent shell casings. They serve as silent reminders of that dramatic day. When visitors pause at the roadside memorial near Araucourt, they can almost hear the distant rumble of engines and the crack of guns from 1944. It was here that a U.S. tank crew's moment of heroism turned a deadly ambush into a total rout, a testament to bravery under fire, and a legacy that endures as one of World War II's truly cinematic battlefield turnarounds. Wars may be planned by generals, a veteran tanker reflected, but sometimes they are decided by the sudden courage of men in a single tank.